Hello there, and welcome to Real Talk with Angry Soccer Mom. Let me see here. If you're around, please say hello. I have a lot going on tonight, so I hope lots of people come by. Welcome to Real Talk, this live show, the live show discussion topics for Real Talk with Angry Soccer Mom. As always, include anything you feel is newsworthy about racism, bigotry, inequality, and corruption in America. And that covers pretty much everything. So if you're around, please say hello. Don't be shy. The show is meant to be an opportunity for viewers to speak their mind and tell their own experience and what they think about what's going on in our country. The show is also meant to serve as an educational tool in cultural competency with a focus on learning the truth about systemic racism in America. I have a few announcements, and then I will bring on our guest who's going to stay for the first part of the show and tell us what he thinks, and then give us, if he has a few more minutes, he'll take questions and comments. So hopefully people will come right on. Today's a little bit different format than I usually do. We're making it the casual, cool format. I guess you could call it. Maybe you could call it that. I'm just going to scroll right up. Pat, welcome. Thanks for being here. I wanted to thank everybody for sending me breaking news. If you do want to send me breaking news of any sort, I'm always appreciative since I can't keep up. You can send it right there. Or if you want to say hi. Hey, Dave, thank you for being here. I'm excited. I think you're going to love my guest. Sweet. And if you send me breaking news, I will be very, very indebted to you, as well as just say hi and tell me how you are, because I have a private message on my Facebook page called Angry Soccer Mom. March 28th at 9 p.m. Eastern on the YouTube channel will be the third meeting of our book chat group, which I am thrilled with. So please jump in. If you haven't read the book, no one cares. I will do a summary at the beginning and get you right caught up. All right. At the meeting, I summarize a chapter and I host a discussion. The book's White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. That's our first book. Two more announcements. Stream War. I'm doing a live stream each Sunday from 3 to 5 where people just come by and say hi. I basically hang out and do work, and I'll talk about anything, and it does not have to be on topic. I want to know who you are and about your life. So that's just kind of an open free streaming. I am changing the format, like I said, of the show. So bear with me. It's going to be less centered on me giving news and more centered on hearing you talk and your personal experience. And on that note, I have a phone number. If you want to call in later, Don's going to be talking for a little bit. And if he does have time for questions, that would be a great time to call in. So the number's here. And on that lovely note, welcome my friend Don. And my friend Don, I will tell you a little bit about him. Don Kremlin. He is going to be on any second. He's kind of doing double time with another gig he's doing. But welcome, Don. Thank you for being here. I want to introduce my friend.
My pleasure, Angry Soccer Mom. Glad to be of service. Always a pleasure to interface with you and your good people.
Thank you. I wanted to introduce, this is Colonel Kremlin, or Colonel Don. He's a former, for those of you who don't know him, he's a former military commander and is currently a certified health and wellness consultant. And he, from what I've heard, he's quite good. If you want to be healthy and well, Don was a senior quality advisor at Hewlett Packard, and Don is incredibly knowledgeable in so many areas, but he's not just another pretty face with a smart, pretty face. He is a wonderful friend of mine. Don has a blog and a health and fitness page that I will put up at the end so that you can check him out. And on that lovely note, welcome.
Wow, thank you for that wonderful introduction. I really appreciate that. Well, my goodness, we've got a lot of things to cover right now. I know that our main focus wanted to be on the Colorado shooting, and that was really horrible. It was a horrific thing. The argument, the discussion that has turned into an argument that developed out of that is with regard to the open carry state, and naturally Colorado and Georgia, the two states where we have the two extremely controversial new representatives in Congress that are very serious gun proponents. Excuse me.
You are.
Have, along with the IRS, come out very strongly, still basically tone deaf in support of all of the weapons of not mass, but certainly significant destruction. Here's what I'd like to say based on my experience. As a former commander who had people under my jurisdiction that were professionally trained, qualified, and certified to fire effectively firearms with live ammunition, I can't emphasize enough that there were several of these people. They were fully trained, qualified, certified, like I said, and on our side. And I was nervous to my toes that they had these weapons, and yet they'd been through all of the training classes, been through the qualification classes, been through the certification. And by the way, personally, I have an expert marksmanship rating, but I'm not a big gun fanatic. I have reasonable expectations with regard to the Second Amendment, in that responsible gun ownership is something that I do not have a problem with. We do not have responsible gun ownership societal laws governing all of our jurisdictions at this snapshot in time. There are extremely loose and open carry states. There's Florida and a few places like it that have the stand your ground laws that, as most of us know, really only apply to non-marginalized people being able to apply that defense when basically executing marginalized people. So it's a very significant imbalance. Now, this person, Ahmad Aliwi Alisa, 21 years old, charged with 10 counts of first-degree murder in connection with Monday's mass shooting at the King Soopers grocery store, Boulder, Colorado. He certainly did not look like a marginalized person. He seems to be of a certain religious affiliation that is going to contribute to a dialogue that the racists and white supremacists will be able to pour gasoline on the fire with regard to him being an undesirable and the type of person that they're looking for to exclude from the country for immigration law purposes, et cetera, et cetera. But that's not the point. He looks like a majority person, clearly was not challenged. He executed people in the parking lot and in their cars as well as in the grocery store. The poor officer who lost his life, Tally, I believe his name is. I don't see his, it'll come to me in a moment. But anyway, he apparently was very heroic in his actions, and there would have been further loss of life had he not intervened in the way. Officer Eric Talley, 51, who's father of 7 and had walked his daughter, his oldest daughter, I believe, down the aisle for her wedding last summer. From all reports, was a wonderful human being. Certainly none of these people deserve to have a loss of life because of a mental illness problem with regard to too much ease of access for this person. So I've already told you how I feel about, there are people that even with fully extremely measured and regimented training programs still have some issues with regard to their ability to handle difficult situations safely. And here we have a society in this country where we have made it available. Practically anyone who can fog a mirror can purchase a dangerous firearm and has no further training than what it took to supply their credit card number or watch a point and shoot video or less. So this is extremely disturbing. Now let's talk just a teeny weeny bit about assault weapons. Assault weapons are meant to kill and maim. They're not meant to wound. Wounding is something that is done by a regular firearm if it does not hit a vital area. If you get hit anywhere with an assault weapon, you are either dead or going to be maimed. Maimed as in losing a limb, that sort of thing, losing an eye, losing something vital. With regard to, if you're hit, if you're grazed in a major body part area, you're going to lose a significant chunk of your vital area that is hit. This is not a weapon for hunting. This is not a weapon for sport shooting. This is a weapon for military conflict only, in my humble opinion. I've seen what these weapons can do up close and personal, and it's not a pretty sight at all. I'll give you a little background about me as far as my exposure to this sort of thing. Desert Shield, Desert Storm, the Kosovo conflict, and I was mission support commander during Operation Iraqi Freedom. So I know a teeny weeny bit about this sort of thing. I can't think of a scenario where it would be okay and or appropriate for a civilian to have an assault weapon. And especially under the conditions where the previous administration lifted all of the restrictions regarding mental health access and availability to these type of weapons. It's purely been an issue of greed over people in the way that certain politicians have interfaced with the NRA, which has been exposed by the New York Attorney General to be extremely corrupt, along with the things that they're doing. They're taking personal vacations to exotic locations and purchasing fluff and frivolous items of a personal nature that the funding was supposed to go into however it is they're supposed to be running their organization. But that clearly has not been the case. But that was exposed, and so now they're moving out of New York in order to try and get away from her jurisdiction, but it won't make a difference because these acts occurred while they were still headquartered in New York. Now they're moving obviously to a more gun-friendly state, but that will not excuse them from their previous acts. So we have yet to see how that will unfold, but we'll keep an eye on that to see exactly what happens going forward from there. The problem, if we go back historically, and let me just provide a very, very brief history about this. Back in the late 60s, early 70s, when the Black Panthers were coming to rise, and by the way, all of this hate and vitriol you see against Black Lives Matter is a peaceful oriented group that is involved in peaceful protest against injustice in the criminal justice system, against police brutality and injustice in the criminal justice system. That's it. That's the extent of their, I mean, they've got, there are other long-winded versions of what it is they're about and what they do, but that's the bottom line. The Black Panthers, many people don't realize this, the Black Panthers were over 70% female, and their primary goal when they were first formed was to provide breakfast, lunch, and medical services to disadvantaged Black neighborhoods. That further got extended because Huey P. Newton, who had a PhD, was a very intelligent guy. He looked up the laws and determined that there were no laws against open carry of significant weapons. So that's what they did in order to provide a presence, because then as now, Black neighborhoods do not get proper police protection. They get police intervention, interjection, whereas just as then, what the Black Panthers were trying to do was, we want to arm ourselves so we can protect our communities from crime, but we don't want to call the police because the police come and they indiscriminately shoot whoever they see, versus trying to get to solve the crime and get to the root of the problem and provide a resource and protection in those areas. So that's how this, in my opinion, has come about to where we are now. So originally, Huey Newton determined that there were no laws against open carry. They started open carrying. The gun manufacturer said, wait a minute. First of all, the politicians, so Ronald Reagan was in power then and all the people who supported him, they said, whoa, we've got to make some serious restrictive gun laws. And they implemented them in a nanosecond because there were so many Black guys out there with weapons open carrying. But then the gun manufacturer said, wait a minute, we're going to go out of business if people can't buy guns. So let's do this. Let's make it so that practically anybody that can fog a mirror can buy a purchase a weapon, and we will arm the masses in such a way that we will create a society. But I don't know what their goal was. It certainly didn't seem noble beyond making a big profit, which they did a great job of doing. They have tried to make it sound like it's sporting and it's okay to hunt, and Second Amendment. Second Amendment addressed arming organized militias, but these organized militias were supposed to protect all of the community, not just white supremacist militia groups on the fringe of society, hiding in the woods and practicing racial hatred and getting drunk and firing their weapons all over the place, which is pretty much what goes on right now. So if we look at the history, and all of this has been distorted by people depending on where they are politically, social-politically, in order to move their agenda forward.
Propaganda.
However, if we look globally at what needs to be done in order to have the best opportunity for all people, not just some people, to be safe in their communities, what we really need is responsible gun laws. So we need background checks. We need to reinstate that mentally disturbed or marginalized people that have issues in that area do not have access to this type of weaponry. We need to, in my humble opinion, ban assault weapons. There are other weapons that can be utilized. The trend now to make it clear that everybody can have a gun, that is clearly not working. We once had that in the Wild Wild West, and there's a reason why things allegedly got more organized, and we have forgotten that history, and we're falling back into an area that was total chaos and wasn't good for anybody. There was a policeman on the scene. They say, well, what about a good guy with a gun on the scene? Well, there was a policeman on the scene with this, and thank goodness he had to lose his life, unfortunately, in order to prevent the carnage from being worse than it was, but it shouldn't have had to come to that in the first place. In other countries like Japan and the UK, regular civilians don't have access to this type of weaponry at all. I don't think civilians are even allowed to have guns in Japan. We're way beyond that. We'll never get to that. But we should be able to control reasonable background checks, requirements for proper training and security, and for assault weapons altogether to be, whether there's a turn-in, you get a credit towards something else or whatever. All of these need to be, the only people that need to have assault weapons are the military. Not even the police. The police should not have assault weapons. That's crazy. Because who are they going to use it against? They're going to use it against other civilians. That doesn't make any sense to me. There are plenty of other means of control, influence, diplomacy that should be
De-escalation.
exhausted.
De-escalation.
That should be exhausted before you immediately go to a lethal means of resolving a problem. Otherwise, what good was all of that alleged training that you went through at the police academy if your instant reaction is going to be to just open fire?
Shoot to kill, too.
Yes. Why do you have a nightstick? Why do you have pepper spray? Why do you have tasers if you're not going to use them? If you arrive on the scene and instead of walking the progression of the tools at your disposal in order to properly perform your job, and you instantly go to the lethal option, that shows me that there's a lot wrong with your training, with you as an individual, etc. By the way, you as an individual, I didn't mean to talk this long. I'm sorry.
No, you're great. It's fine. I have questions and comments.
It has now come to light again that the FBI has been warning for the last 15 years. This is something that people in your group will be very much aware of, that the police organizations all across the country have been heavily infiltrated by white supremacist groups. So why is it a surprise that these people have no respect for people of color, have no respect for marginalized people, have no respect for marginalized people, which includes people of color, women, minorities, different ethnic, et cetera, on down the line. If you don't match a certain look like them profile, you are treated as an enemy combatant instead of a viable community member that needs to be treated with respect and dignity while doing their job. And this is a significant problem. It's resurfacing as they find more and more people that participated in the January 6th insurrection turn out to be former military, former police. Some of them were active duty police or active duty military that were off duty at the time. And so now people are, well, do they lose their job? Do they lose their pension? Do they lose their, yes, is the answer to all of those. They should lose all of that and pay a penalty of some type of term of incarceration for performing in an act of sedition and insurrection, which is the most heinous attack against our democracy that can be committed by an individual. When you show up with violence and 4 people died, some people, like one policeman lost his eye, there's just too much evidence. And all of the people that are being rounded up, what are they saying? Despite the defense and despite the Senate that acquitted 45, they're saying that they were following the direction specifically of what 45 told them to say. And their excuse is to say, well, it wasn't planned, it was spontaneous. There are photographs of these people showing up with T-shirts and so forth that say Civil War and Trump and everything like that. They have communication records between personnel in the White House and the leaders of the insurrection group. Well, people were saying, well, is that tied directly to 45? Well, what they're doing is they know who was in direct communication, as well as some of the new members of Congress that had no business being involved in this sort of thing. So all of this stuff is going to come to a very ugly place, but it needs to be brought into the light. And speaking of that, they are trying to rush these voter suppression laws in by the end of this month. So today's the 24th, we have till the 31st before they go. So Congress and the Senate have to move extremely quickly to pass HR 1 that is an absolutely imperative law that must be on the books before the end of this month in order to beat the states from trying to undermine and when you stop and think about that, how sick is it to be in a democracy and a marginal group in that democracy that considers themselves to be superior to the rest of the people in the democracy are racing at warp speed to restrict and deny everyone access to what is inherent in the democratic process, which is that everybody has an equal opportunity to voice their political position.
It's unconscionable. I mean, there's no words for it.
So unless you have any questions, that'll be the end of my presentation this evening.
Do you need
Sorry
to
for
run,
what I'll
Don?
do at the time.
Do you need to run?
I would like to run as soon as possible. If you got some quick questions, I'll address them.
Well, I just wanted to point out, welcome, Anastasia. If you guys have questions, make them fast and write them in. There's been a lot of comments. I don't know if you've gotten to check them out at all, but one of the things to point out, Don, which really impacted me when you said that you have actually given people the oath. Is that not correct?
Oh yes, I have given the oath of enlistment hundreds, if not thousands of times. As a former commander, people raise their right hand, repeat after me. I state your full name, da 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 da, and they everything. And part of that phraseology says, I will obey the senior officers appointed over me, and I will protect and defend the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
So this is not an ambiguous thing, is I guess what I'm trying to point out. This is an actual oath that people take, and
absolutely. And there are conditions. You have to be in front of an authorized commissioned officer. You have to be in the presence of the flag. There has to be a witness, at least one witness, and you have to be able to clearly hear the person repeating the "I do solemnly swear" or affirm. If if you're uncomfortable with the word swear, is "I do solemnly swear" or affirm. There's even that option. So you can't get out of saying all of the correct words that basically commit you to a contractual agreement where you are agreeing to protect and defend this democracy against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
You have a question, if you don't mind taking one real quick.
Hurry up, thank you.
Okay, this is from Mahako to Don. What's the exact punishment that people who took part in the insurrection will be getting? And do you have any, I can just expand for him. No, I can speak for him. And do you have any idea about any of this type of thing? Or, I mean,
certainly the penalties range from, here's the problem with it. It's what can be proved and what can, some people are going to come in with some pretty sharp lawyers and are going to dodge and evade as much as possible. And there may be some things that will be clear enough so that an establishment of guilt for a significant punishment will be established. Certainly, at the higher ends, they're looking at 20 to 40 years. At the lower ends, they're looking at something a lot less than that based on what can actually be proven. So it's gonna, I don't know. The bottom line is I don't know, but I know that the range of punishments go from extremely severe to whatever the district attorney will settle for in order to get some type of punishment versus the person just walking away. So that's a one size fits one punishment. Once a few people get established, and it sets a precedent for who's getting punished at what levels, depending on their involvement, things will start to pick up and go a little bit quicker from there. And naturally, they're going to pick the most severe cases with the most severe punishments to try and go after first in order to set a line.
Continuum of punishment.
Of where of where the spectrum of punishments will begin.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense.
So not being a fully qualified attorney, but having
Right, no, that makes sense.
that had the JAG office, the Judge Advocate General office, work for me, that had a whole team of attorneys that I was in conference and conversations with on many occasions, depending on the things that went on in the military under my command. That's pretty much how I would understand that it should unfold. That plus my conversations with friends that are lawyers and in the criminal justice system. So we'll just have to wait and see how it unfolds.
Great question, Ohako. Thank you.
Yeah,
I have questions for you, but I will postpone those questions because I know you need to get going, and I am incredibly
If you got a couple quick ones, I'll
Okay.
try and take them.
My question is, you once came onto the show and kind of explained to people, and I don't know if you're in the position to do that right now, about the idea of the Second Amendment not being something that allows for a free-for-all of any weapons. And I remember, I don't know if you recall back telling us a little bit about that, but you did it so eloquently. I thought if you remember anything about that, because a lot of people we have to have, these weapons, we're owed these weapons. And
the broad brush that's been painted regarding what the Second Amendment actually says has been corrupted to a very significant extent in the modern era. Back in the days when it was written by the forefathers, flintlock weapons, if you were extremely proficient with a flintlock weapon, you could reload in approximately 1 to 2 minutes. Whereas with today's weaponry, especially assault weapons, you can get off as much as 138 rounds in 1 minute. So there's that concept, as well as the other concept. If you read the Second Amendment slowly and carefully, it says that the arming of citizens is only with regard to well-organized militias. Now, what that was supposed to mean was militias that protected all of the community, because you got to remember that this was done back in the formation of the country when there weren't very many organized police forces and that sort of thing. So if the community needed to arm themselves in order to protect themselves, it was purely defensive format and framework from which they were looking at it, not an offensive, and certainly not an attack against marginalized versus non-marginalized people. And it's become corrupted to anybody can fog a mirror, should have a gun, and they should have the most dangerous guns on the planet, and they should be able to open carry them anywhere they want, to do whatever they want. And the stand your ground things.
Stand your ground is crazy.
It's insane. It basically means that instead of a small intersocial disagreement going to fisticuffs, you can pull out a lethal weapon and end the thing right then and there.
Escalate it right away.
Yes, and that's not what's in it. And the origin and training of the police force is supposed to be against that as well, but they have clearly lost their way. Part of the reason being what we described, that people that have no business being in the police department. What does it say on the side of the cars? Protect and serve. That's supposed to be the primary objective, protect and serve. When they show up nowadays, does anybody that is not in like a 1% gated community think that they're there to protect and serve?
Not everybody. They're not there to protect and serve everybody.
The evidence is not backing that up, at least not 100%. Now, there are lots and lots of wonderful correctional officers that are doing it the right way, but they need to have a stronger voice to get rid of the bad apples, because right now the bad apples are in way too big a supply, and they're making an extremely bad reputation for everybody involved.
Right. And I have strong feelings about the whole bad apple thing, which I know you know about, and absolutely. T says stand your ground's unbelievable. It's I think it's a license to murder people in historically marginalized groups, basically, personally, but that's just my little take on it. That was exactly what I wanted you to explain. You explained it so well last time and equally as well this time. I really appreciate it. This is a huge honor to have you here, and I'm going to let you go because I know you have other commitments.
Yes.
But thank you so much for tonight.
My pleasure. Glad to be of service. Take care. God bless everyone out there, and we'll see you again next time.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Right on. Wonderful. Thrilled Don can be here. What I am going to do, definitely will take any comments anyone has. Tonight, as I said, we're going to have a different format than we normally do. Each Wednesday, I'm going to kind of be, finding my way with the format. And I'd like it to be more your voice and less me, I guess is a good way to put it. Less me, more you. So I'm not sure how else to put that. But for tonight, I have a couple of things to say. I want to pose some questions to people watching. And then I have a couple of very short videos that after watching, I'd love it if you would tell me what you think. Now, gun control, common sense gun laws, mass shootings, the incredible amount of cruelty that guns have done in our in the United States versus other like countries is definitely a really hot topic. For me, it boils down to something rather simple: greed over humanity. That's money and wealth and greed over humanity. And we can go into that if you want. I am not standing here as an expert. That's why I brought Don on, because he actually is an expert, having been a colonel for some time in the military and many, many other experiences. So I just kind of was great. It was great to get him on here tonight. But I know personally, one of the greatest equalizers of how shall I put it, between the people who absolutely insist on being armed with semi-automatics and whatnot, and the idea that people should have common sense. If you're on the no-fly list, you probably shouldn't be allowed to have a gun that shoots 110 plus times in 1 minute. Yeah. But my biggest take on this, you might laugh, is completely different than this. We have a system of healthcare that is for profit. I don't need to tell you this, but it's also for profit for mental health care. And I truly believe, from my own personal experience and what I've read and what I've heard other people say, and just kind of being on the planet, that if it were profitable, we'd have a mental health care system in this country. From Reagan on, we really haven't had much. If you're wealthy, you can get your mental health cared for by a doctor or a trained clinician. If you are not wealthy, you can see someone once a week for approximately 40 minutes and talk to them. You're lucky if you have both a psychiatrist and a psychologist or a therapist. Usually insurance does not afford both, or they fight you on it. Oftentimes you are limited they hassle you to make it absolutely a total pain in the ass to be able to make an appointment. They give you medicine with no therapy, which has been shown to not work. They give you therapy with no medicine, which may be a little better, but the amount of therapy. Here's an example. About years and years ago, if you had a mental disorder, 1 in 4 people in their lifetime, over time, will have something significant enough to call it an emotional issue that is medical. 1 in 4. But in America, we pretend that we don't really know. It's really a taboo subject, and it's killing us, literally, figuratively, all of the above. It's killing us. It's killing people. We see these people in high school. You think the teachers and the counselors and the substitutes and the other kids don't know who's really troubled? Please. This is not something that it doesn't need people who need help. It's really usually obvious. Sometimes it's not, but oftentimes it very much is. And yeah, they're doing a little better in some wealthy districts, but we don't have this. What about, I mean, it is unconscionable. Mental health care is not profitable. In the olden days, okay, probably when I was a bit younger, I've talked extensively to people who are doctors and nurses and clinicians in mental health wards at hospitals. And over and over and over again, I hear the same thing. They say insurance, God, forces us to boot people out in 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours. We can help these people, but not in a day, not in two. We used to be able to keep them 6 months to a year and actually help them with their mental illness, with medication, with therapy, with cognitive behavioral therapy, with things that are best practices. Nowadays, there isn't even a bed to be had. I know it was quite some time ago, and I can't remember what, but quite some time ago, there was a congressperson in the United States Congress whose son was mentally ill, and his son was an adult. And again, when your children turn to be adults, if you're the parent of a child who was born with mental illness, we're learning more and more that it really is something you're born with, or the propensity to have it. People who beat the crap out of their kids and are horrible parents come out with kids that are okay. People who are model parents can come out with kids that have severe mental illness. This is not about, oh, you were a shitty parent. And I just wanted to put that out there because that's a big, big propaganda stereotype, which in general has absolutely never been shown. I'm just kind of saying there's too many variables. It's too much. But this man, I'll look him up after the show. He had a son who's severely mentally ill that they've been monitoring, and he tried to get him a bed in a hospital, and he couldn't. And then he went and shot his dad. And his dad lived, and somebody else, I think, I can't remember. It's a long time ago, but he wanted to get him. T. Rogers medicine along with therapy is the most ideal, and absolutely. And that's just been proven over and over and over again. Yet it is extremely rare that anybody gets that. And if they do get it, their copays and their deductibles are so out of control. A lot of people just can't afford it. Oftentimes, copays can be $50. I know my copays, my copays for a lot of this kind of stuff were $50. I've had like 7 different insurances, $50, $75 once. Even the person that I went to, the doctor, was like, whoa. And I'm like, yeah, right. For if you have a medical emergency or something, it's $100. These are ridiculous. This is a copay, a one-time, like, I remember once I hurt myself bad enough to have to go to the doctors, and it was $75 to go. And, it might not seem like a lot to some people, but let's say 2 people in your family have to go, or, in the same month, it's like, or the same week. It really adds up. Plus deductibles are thousands of dollars usually. And so it's just, people put it off. I believe for-profit healthcare in America is one of the biggest causes of the gun violence. You might think, Kim, seriously? But you see, these people who do this, they have 2 things in common. Every last one of them. They have a gun somehow, and they have some form of deranged mental illness. Now, before people pounce and say you're making an excuse, to mass murder, by definition, in my mind, you can fight me on it, something's wrong with you. I'm sorry. Okay? Discriminately mass murder. That's not what we consider a mentally healthy person to, doing. So I'm going to go there. not making excuses per se, but, and I'm all for personal responsibility, don't get me wrong, but for the love of God, these people are not living a life that's absolutely normal and healthy mentally and physically. And then suddenly one day out of the blue, they decide to randomly go into a grocery store and murder pretty much anyone they can murder on the way. I'm sorry, not buying it. Do I have any experts telling me this? Absolutely not. And I believe truly that all opinions are not rated equally. So I am not an expert, and I'm putting that out there. But right, T. Rogers, there's a stigma along with mental health, and in this country especially, it is so strong that it is a horrific thing in our culture. It really, really is. So let me take some comments, and if anyone wants to call in, please do. If you have something to say, let me just back it up for a minute. And I am going to switch over to, boop. Uh-oh. 1 second. Can you still see me? I have lost, there it is. I have lost it. There we go. I think I'm up still. There we go. T. Rogers, a little girl, came for her first day of pre-K saying, "I'm going to kill you all." A 5-year-old. Oh, poor baby. That's a toughie. That's awful. I'm going to back it up and make a quick comment because I have a couple of videos to show, and they're very short, but they're really, really meaningful. I want to know what you think. So before we go there, I will back it up and see if there's any. T, when you said hand sanitizer, that was hilarious. He's pretty safe. He lives with his pup, I believe. But I'm just really thrilled to have people here. Thank you so much. I'm going to open it up to anyone who wants to say anything. And I'm going to get a little help on how to get the videos on so you can see them. And then we're going to do one and then talk. Yeah, I need help. Right here. Excuse me for 1 second. I don't know how to get the videos on, so. Thanks. I'll be just 1 second. Something happened. Of course, me and technology, we just don't mix.
The Republican?
It doesn't matter. I'm not going to do it now. I just want to know how again. Yeah. Okay.
So you want to go here?
I know. Okay. Thank you. Okay. There we go. Now I know how to share. Am I still on right now? Okay. So I'm going to take some comments, and now I think I know how to switch it. Bear with me, people. I'm not good, but I think we all knew that. All right. Let me just see here at the top. All right. Thanks for bearing with me. T. Rogers literally and figuratively giving folks ammunition to harm and kill. My one video goes right along with what Don said about maiming and murdering and killing, not, stopping somebody. It's really horrible. I agree with Don. Okay, I'm not sure about the Cleveland Brown thing. I don't know who that is exactly. I know I probably should, but I don't. And that was Don's normal voice. So maybe you can tell me more if or maybe you're just, making a joke. I wasn't sure. T. Rogers, when I think of the Black Panthers, I think of Black people being more in a defensive mode, looking out for our communities because of racism, Jim Crow, and white supremacy. Lastly, I think it takes years and multiple tests and screening to get a permit for a gun in Japan. Thank you for that. I had heard something similar. I didn't even know it was really possible even. Very good. Boyson says that initially the Black Panther movement was truly inspirational. However, they eventually had a militant attitude, which is quite a shame. Yeah, I personally, not that it's my business in any way, shape, or form, but from the very little that I've read, studied, seen, heard, I support it fully, what they did, and not murdering and this and that, or anything like that, but I fully get the idea. I don't blame them at all. I would probably be in it myself if I lived back then. And I want to just explain that as a white person, it's not my place to say yay, nay, anything about what Black people do to protect themselves, their communities, and their loved ones. But I can say one thing to white folks, and that is that if you think, Black Panthers, this, that, and the other, live a few minutes as a Black person in America, back then or now, and you will change your mind. And if you don't, then you're not studying enough. And I mean that from the heart. How long does a people have to wait patiently being abused over time, which if you follow what I do, I believe that's a crime against humanity, systemic racism. How long does a people have to be abused and abused and abused and have people say, be peaceful, be nice, just wait? How many months, years, decades, centuries? So I'm just saying, I'm not trying to get all nuts on you here, but if you're white, you have not walked in their shoes. You have not lived 1 minute, 1 second of one day in a culture that reeks of systemic racism and white supremacy. So speech over. I love to rant. So I want to show you, oopsie, I lost my spot again. I'm so good at this. Let me take more comments. This loosey-goosey format I have is killing me because I have to actually know what to do, which, oops. No, I'll keep going. Let me get back up. And I'm not aiming that comment of mine at any one person. I'm just saying, this is called real talk. There's a reason. We're not here to, make light and make nice. We're here to talk about real things. So that's what we do. But everyone obviously is entitled to their opinion. And I am not here to teach Black people, brown people, indigenous people, African-American people. I'm here speaking from the heart to white people. Of course, in my audience as teachers and mentors for me are a lot of people who live this every day. So that being said, it's thrilling for me and it's an honor to have people help me learn, but I'm not teaching. That would be way out of my lane. I mean, how in the world would somebody like me know better how to solve the problems that white America has caused? I mean, how would I know? I don't live this. So it would be quite arrogant and many other colorful words I could use, but I won't do it because I don't want to get kicked off YouTube, of course. T. Rogers. Okay, lastly, I'm not sure if I read, we'll keep it up, but I can't read yours because I might get in trouble. Anastasia. Stochastic terrorism and ambiguity are always the tools of white fragility and mediocrity. Yeah, I mean, we got some major issues in this country. I think we have a white people problem in America. And I don't mean that meanly. I don't mean that as a name calling, but historically, for centuries, we have thought as white people of race and racism as a Black problem. Well, I truly want to be one of the people who helps end that notion. It is a problem in and of we are marginalizing and oppressing a group of people, but we don't have a Black person problem in America. We have a white person problem. And I want to make that crystal clear to white folks who are listening. You need to understand. And by shifting that puts the responsibility where it belongs, on the people who are privileged enough to, by chance, be born white. And with that privilege needs to come some racial responsibility. No, you do not have to get a PhD in African American studies in the African diaspora. And no, no, no. There are simple things you can do every day. Very simple things. It's called being human. So I will get off my high horse now, nay. And I'm just saying, I want to make that crystal clear. Let me see. I can't read that. I don't think I should read that. Let's see. To Rogers, I don't think the militant aspect was necessarily a bad thing with regards to the Black Panthers, given the events and the time. To Don, Mahako, thank you for that great question. Let's say they didn't bring guns to the Capitol because they knew they would stand a chance against the government. Right. They brought guns to the Capitol, apparently, many of them to intimidate and try to assassinate, or, I mean, at least that's what they said. And that's what a lot of the, a lot of it is ending up boiling down to. And yeah, it's, oh, don't even get me started. Stand your ground's unbelievable. Absolutely, T. Rogers. It's in my mind, it's a license to murder someone because, wham, you were scared. And that's basically what the police have right now with the very, very lax national, there's practically, when we say with impunity, we aren't kidding, because less than 1% ever have any punishment for anything they do. We don't keep track. There's no national database. I know people started one, but it's a voluntary basis for which they have to report. Police go from here to there. We are training our police in many things, but the number one thing we train our police in is how to shoot someone. Now, people do what they're trained in. You'd think de-escalate? No. Some places do teach de-escalation. But overall, I read study after study. We teach police how to kill, and they have a gun that can kill, and they use it. And because there's no, implicit bias, and I could go on and on. Our police in America, and Don, I absolutely respect him with all my heart, but I don't even bring that bad apple thing. And I'm not trying to go against a person who knows, but it's the culture. There's not a bad apple, because if you're a person, and I know he wasn't saying that, he was saying there's a lot of them, and I would say the entire bushel. Okay. And that's just my opinion from what I've learned over time. And he's very kind, and I'm not. I am, he's very diplomatic, and I'm not. I believe it needs to be there needs to be a full dismantling of the police culture in America. And I don't know how that is going to ever take place, but let's be real. It's not an apple here, an apple there. If you are, we're living this out in public, okay? It is, everybody knows the thin blue line, or the blue line, it's common knowledge that police don't cross it. It's a culture based on, being a culture of slave patrols that came from the South and ended up being the first start of our police forces. And it really hasn't changed much culture-wise, it would seem. Yes, there are some great police, but we're giving people a gun after knowing the FBI. I mean, I think we all knew this. I don't know if we even needed the FBI to tell us, but it's nice. The FBI says we've been infiltrated, and they said it almost 15 years ago, like 12, 13, 14. Yeah, it's yeah. So you don't need me to tell you this. Okay. Let me see here. Anastasia, it's funny, if a group of pilots were crashing planes 2 to 3 times a week into mountains, everyone would be saying that everyone would be saying that not all pilots are bad. Yeah, it's a tough thing. In my mind, certainly, we've allowed this to go on before our very eyes, and the majority have accepted it as a normal part of our culture. And I find that to be unconscionable, personally, unconscionable. conscionable. When police comes to somebody who is Black, they assume the Black person did it, even if the Black person's the victim. If you are a police and you are doing everything right, you are still very likely watching people do things wrong, in which case you might as well have done it yourself. Those are my morals. What can I say? I'm sorry. These people have a gun. Need I say more? Let me see here. I'm catching up. T. Rogers, well, white supremacy is based on greed over humanity. Absolutely. Absolutely. We've taken an economic system of capitalism and we've basically made it a lifestyle. And that is disgusting. And having for-profit healthcare, in my mind, is the reason we have almost no real mental health care, because it's not profitable. It is just as much of a medical issue as anything physiologically that you can see or a disease. We're just in the infancy of understanding it. If it weren't so stigmatized, we'd probably know a hell of a lot more. I have huge issues with the whole thing with having capitalism as a lifestyle. If it costs more to kill you, the insurance companies, what can they say? They're in. I find it to be disgusting. Let me see. See, Rogers, let me tell you something I can tell the minute a 4 or 5-year-old mentally ill kid enters my classroom, and she's a preschool special education teacher, right? Is that right? T, or special ed? T, medications along with therapy is the best, right? We talked about that. T, however, people often forget how important mental health is and tend to ignore it and not take it as seriously as physical health. Absolutely. And there's a stigma. There's a blame the parents, blame the mom. That's huge. Oh, the parents must be bad parents. Well, you know what? Then there's that murderer who has a kid and they come out perfectly normal. There's medications that work. There are known mental disorders. Nice try. But we still like to, in America here, and I don't know about other countries, we like to blame people and not call it a medical issue because it makes us feel better, because we didn't think, well, it couldn't happen to me. I'm a great parent. Well, that's a bunch of bullshit. So if you've ever had a child who's severely mentally ill, you would know that. As a special ed teacher, I had many, many students who were mentally ill who had incredible parents. I mean, like incredible. So it doesn't really work that way. If you are a really shitty parent, it's probably not helping. But you know what? We don't have that much control. Anyone who has kids knows that. You're kind of born the way you're born. I hate to say it. We do have control to shape and mold, but let's be real. Let me see here. T. Rogers. You're absolutely spot on. I appreciate your wisdom on mental health. There's a statement that goes along with mental health, though. A little girl, I'll just read this again because it's very important. A little girl came on her first day in my pre-K class saying, "I'm going to kill you," a 5-year-old child. I told her mom, and she was very defensive about it. T, you're kind of a Europhobe. I didn't know that. That's funny. That's what you were telling Don to, like, wash up, Don. That was very funny. The sanitizer. Oh my God. I thought it was cute. Jamie, welcome. Thank you for being here. Don spoke earlier about his take as a former military colonel and a human being about guns and whatnot. And he was very wary of people who had actual training and had military rifles in the military. So obviously he's not so keen on the general public having them. T. Rogers, yes, I have a dual degree and dual certification, and I've taught general ed and special ed, just like me. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Just like me. My master's is in special ed, but in where I used to teach in California, you had to have both credentials anyway, plus a second language acquisition. Well, I don't know what they do now, but anyway, I gotcha. That's funny. Mr. F.S. Black, welcome. So without further ado, I am going to play a quick video, which I would love your comments on. Again, if you're just joining us, I've changed the format to make it less stressful for me on Wednesdays. I will do something special every time and then have people just come on and kind of come talk and tell me what they think. I brought Don on because he is considered an expert, military officer and person who shoots, I guess you could say, shooter. He marksman. I'm not sure what you call it even. I really was thrilled he could come on because I don't have an expertise in some of these areas. And so if I know someone who does, I bring them on. On that lovely note, let me see if I can play my first video. I want to know what you think. Okay. Wish me luck. Wish me luck. Share the screen and see what happens. They taught me how to do this, but it doesn't mean I can do it. The team of experts taught me. Let me see here. I'll see what happens. Share screen and let me just see here. I think I need to. Okay, I don't know if you can tell me if you can see this. We will find out. I am not good. Here's the first one. The other two are mine, which I really want you to see, but I want you to see what this guy says too. Okay, he's good. I'm sure you all know who he is. Let me see.
I've listened to my colleagues' comments with interest, and I join with Senator Feinstein in hoping that we can do something about this. But I do think we ought to keep this in perspective. What has happened in the last few days? I've listened to my colleagues' comments with interest, and I join. I've listened to my colleagues' comments with interest, and I join with Senator Feinstein in hoping that we can do something about this. But I do think we ought to keep this in perspective. What has happened in the last few days, what's happened in the last years, is of course tragic. And I'm not trying to perfectly equate these two, but we have a lot of drunk drivers in America that kill a lot of people. We ought to try to combat that too. But I think what many folks on my side of the aisle are saying is that the answer is not to get rid of all sober drivers. The answer is to concentrate on the problem. We have had a problem in this world for some time with both domestic and international terrorism. Many terrorists happen to be Muslims. When a Muslim jihadist blows up a school full of school children, we are often told not to condemn all of the actions of those of the Muslim faith because of the actions of a few. And I agree with that. So why doesn't the same rule apply to the 100 million plus gun owners in America who are exercising their constitutional right? And I think we ought to keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, as we talk about this issue.
Okay, sure, Senator Kennedy, that is a great analogy. Let's treat gun owners the way that we treat car drivers, meaning that we should require a certain number of hours of practice just to get a permit, which in and of itself has a number of restrictions. Then to get a full-blown license, you need to pass a written test and a practical test. The license needs to be kept up to date. The car that's being driven has to be registered. You have to pay to have it insured, which means paying insurance companies to underwrite you for the cost of damages you might inflict on other people or their property. I mean, hell, we have an entire agency and most police officers dedicated solely to regulating drivers. So if you want to regulate guns the way we regulate drunk drivers, you won't get any pushback here. I mean, think about it. Cars basically are the so-called worst case scenario for gun owners. They're completely regulated. There's pretty much no aspect of driving or car ownership that isn't regulated. And yet somehow, miraculously, cars are still here. Regulating cars wasn't some slippery slope to banning all cars. On the contrary, pretty much everyone has a car. It's almost like the right slippery slope argument is just empty fear-mongering perpetuated by gun lobbyists who stand to benefit financially from having zero oversight on guns. Imagine
Okay.
that. And because cars are so regulated, if there's something about a car that's unsafe, the onus is on the car manufacturer to fix it. If a certain part of a road is unsafe, the onus is on the locality to fix that. If a stop sign or traffic light is needed, it's installed. And as a result, cars get safer, roads get safer, and intersections get safer. That is the entire point of regulation. It's not because the government is bored and looking for some way to spend its time and money. It's because certain aspects of society require oversight to keep people safe. And just like cars, I'd imagine that firearms, weapons that have resulted in mass shootings on a daily basis for years in this country, probably fall into that category. Consider too, the whole point of cars is transportation. The whole point of guns is to kill something. And yet cars are more regulated than guns? No one is saying, as Kennedy is suggesting, that all car owners should be punished because a few people drive drunk. We're saying that the regulations placed on car owners to not drive drunk prevent millions of accidents. Your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you get fined, you could end up in jail. All of that is the result of regulation. It is the system working. But there's no reason why the infrastructure to regulate drivers should be greater than the infrastructure to regulate owners of a weapon whose sole purpose is to hurt or kill something. Notice too how Senator Kennedy's gut reaction here is to draw an equivalency, and a poor one at that, between gun use and drunk driving. Not to figure out how to fix this problem, but instead to deflect attention to a separate issue in an effort to suggest that guns aren't the problem here. In fact, we've been told by Republicans for years that gun control isn't the answer. And to that I'd say this: your way clearly isn't working. Who has the right to decide that gun control isn't the answer when their solution of more guns is leading to mass shootings every day? How many more people have to die before we recognize that pouring millions more firearms into society isn't the right move? How many more mass shootings? How many more movie theaters and schools have to be shot up? How many more nightclubs and churches and concerts? We have tried the Republicans' way of zero regulation and a proliferation of weapons of war into society for decades. It is a failure. And if you don't think it's a failure, I can point you to the families of 18 victims from just this week alone, and maybe they can change your mind. Kennedy even manages to bring up the talking point that many terrorists happen to be Muslims, and that we shouldn't demonize all Muslims for the actions of a few. First of all, leave it to a Republican to find a way to vilify Muslims at a hearing about gun control. Second, if he really wanted to be accurate about terrorism, he'd bring up the adherents from his own party, considering far-right terrorism is leagues more prevalent than Islamic terrorism. In fact, far-right groups are responsible for 2/3 of all terrorist plots and attacks in 2020. Not Muslims, white right-wingers. And finally, the last point is that when Kennedy says that a Muslim jihadist blows up a school, we shouldn't condemn the entire faith because of the actions of a few. He's right. But we do take steps to make schools safer. So by Kennedy's own logic, shouldn't we also take steps to tighten gun laws? Not to confiscate every gun in the country like Republicans are suggesting, but at a bare minimum require background checks and eliminate assault rifles? If schools were getting blown up left and right, we certainly would respond to the problem, so why not do the same thing for guns when mass shootings are occurring every single day? And look, I don't have to stand here and explain any of this to you. No one with half a brain would think that we're doing it right in this country. If Republicans, the purported pro-life party, actually cared about people surviving, they'd lift even a finger to fix a system that is so obviously broken. But whether it's the checks that the gun lobby cuts them for their re-election campaigns, or just their own entrenched partisanship on this issue, they won't change. So the Democrats should use their majority and pass reforms without them. We shouldn't have to wait for Republicans' permission to take steps to make this country safer. The GOP has already proven that there is no amount of deaths that will make them act. So at this point, we need to pass the Universal Background Checks Act. We need to close loopholes, we need to ban automatic rifles, and we need to restrict the use of high-capacity magazines. Republicans don't care if there's blood on their hands, but if Democrats do, then the time to act is right now. To see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the notification.
Okay. Oopsie. All right. I believe, and I hope you can still hear me. I wanted to get your thoughts on this. I tend to agree with them 100%. Can you hear me? Just give me a yes, anybody, if you can hear me. Anybody? Hopefully you can. T. Rogers says to that senator, what does that have to do with the price of tea in China? He's completely full of it. Yep. And obvious racist and obnoxious. I added that in. That was not her. That was me. Shank, Sacramento's in the house. School's in session. Very cute. Welcome. T. Rogers, they always deflect to avoid the issues. T. Rogers, right. How many more mass murders need to occur? T. Good. Yay. The only terrorism I see is white supremacy terrorists right here in America by so-called American patriots. Give me a break. I could not agree more. Carrie back. Thank you. Welcome. I didn't know you were here. Thank you, Shank. I have another video, but I want to know, what do you guys think? I mean, I really agree with them. This is total BS. This is a joke. These are, oh, good. Thanks, Janie. These are fellow humans, for God's sakes. I mean, this is sick shit. That man, the Republican, was absolutely full of it. I mean, and he used the one example that goes completely against, it goes completely against what he's really, the point he's trying to make is that everyone should have a gun no matter what. But it goes against his own points. Cars are made to drive, to get people from one place to another. Guns are made to kill, especially the assault rifles. They're not like Don just said, they're not made to, scare somebody. They're not made to kind of graze somebody. They're made to basically maim. Gotcha, Carrie back. Gotcha. They kill you. They don't just kind of hurt you. I guess the word, it's catastrophic. You're hit, one of your major organ systems or part of your limbs will be gone. And on that lovely note, and I am not, it's so funny. People get so extreme and say, oh, they're going to take our guns away. Always a lone wolf, never a terrorist. Right. But yeah. Yeah. Right. I mean, it is ridiculous. The guns are not being taken away. God forbid we did that in this country. But it's an extreme view of people being killed, having the life ripped from them, all for the right for anyone to have a gun who wants one. We don't even have common sense gun laws, okay? And if we have common sense gun laws, oh my God, they'll take our guns. Well, that's just the most horrible excuse I've ever heard in my life. We have more restrictions on cars. My God, you have to have a license. If you have a medical problem, you can't drive. If you have to have a permit for a certain amount of time. You have to have certain practice. If you have to have a license. Your car has to be in good working order. I mean, there's just, I could go on and on. You have to have insurance. We still have cars. So, again, for anyone who's just joined us, the format of tonight and from now on, Wednesday show is going to be really laid back and kick back. And I'm not going to present really news like I used to. I am going to just talk about real topics, and hopefully people will call in. And the gun is a coward's weapon. Interesting. Shank, tell us more. Many countries have a lot of guns. We just use them to murder people with. So, I mean, I have a lot of issues with not having common sense gun laws. I'm going to show you 2 of my videos. All right. They're not very long. They're very intense. And remember, while you're watching them, my number one concern is this, that if people want to have a goddamn free-for-all with guns and let anybody who wants one have one, then the minimum we should have is a comprehensive, working, free system of mental health care. Because you know what? There's 2 things in common every mass shooting has. The person has somehow gotten access to a gun, and they are absolutely suffering from horrific mental illness. And you have to have a permit to give permanence. Oh my God, that's such a good point. Right. That's a great point. I'm ready. Oh my gosh. I'm going to show you one of my videos and then the other one, and then we'll go on. Carrie, back you in. Comment of the day. Thank you. It's on my channel.
Value the right for anyone to own a gun over our right to. We live in a nation where we value the right for anyone to own a gun over our right to live a full life. That is ridiculous. But we probably figure, doesn't impact us any. We don't know anyone who's been killed in a mass shooting. And then there are those people who say, if you make a law making it harder to get a gun, they'll take away our guns. What kind of bullshit is that? We have something called the car, where we actually have common sense laws, like you need to have a license, you need to be a certain age, you need to wear a seatbelt. You're not allowed to drunk drive. You can't take the car that you drove in the Indy 500 and race it on the road.
Yet lo and behold, we still have cars.
It's just an excuse. One of the most impacting stories I've ever heard about common sense gun laws was from the emergency room doctor who was the first responder at Sandy Hook. An interview asked them, how did you feel when all the bodies were coming in, knowing that you might know one of the kids? And you know what he said? What bodies? Yeah, you heard me. He said, what bodies? When a military-style rifle made for war hits a human body, there are no bodies left. There are parts left. If you like your news and information with a side order of truth, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. I run a live show every Wednesday that is meant for audience participation, and I would love you to be there.
That was a video I did actually a while ago, but I have another video coming up.
In my lifetime,
I want to know
there were more people
what you
that
think
died of
about
gun
it.
violence.
So this is definitely a topic I want to know what you think about. So don't be shy.
We live in a nation.
Don't be shy.
Gun ownership in the United States is a civil rights issue. But I'm not talking about the Second Amendment today. Our Declaration of Independence states that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are 3 unalienable rights given to us by our Creator. These are the rights our government was actually created to protect. Did you know that more people have died in gun deaths in America since 1968 than all the deaths for every war Americans have been in? Once a week in the United States, a toddler gets a hold of a gun and kills somebody. According to Amnesty International, the rate of gun death in America is epidemic. If this were happening in any other nation, Americans would be outraged and they'd be ready to intervene. There are videos all over the internet today that show how quickly someone can go out and buy an AR-15 or an assault rifle in America. Did you know the NRA is continuously lobbying for states to gag order pediatricians from asking about guns in the home or asking about gun safety? All this, yet we still continue to allow pretty much anybody to buy a weapon that spews scores of bullets in seconds. I hear people saying, just arm everybody. Why does common sense get thrown out the window when it comes to guns and people getting killed by them? Let's go ahead and arm everyone with a gun like we're living in a war zone. And when that fails, we can step it up a notch and allow everyone to have an assault rifle. Let's see how that works out. America, what's wrong with you? Stop saying that laws don't prevent crime. Why have any laws then? You're allowing our children to be killed in their classrooms because you refuse to use common sense regarding gun ownership. Why is your right to allow anyone to own a gun more important than my child and your child's right to grow up? Let me guess. It's a big country, so nothing will happen to your loved ones. Well, guess what? I don't want it to happen to mine or yours. Do you know what it feels like to have to bury a child? Or to know that child will be forever 15 in your mind for the rest of your life? This issue isn't political. It's about our loved ones being killed and how we can get some common sense gun laws. We have to come up with a solution. We, the people, must demand it. An overwhelming majority of people in America want common sense gun laws.
All right. I just need to get back to it. Thanks for watching. If you're still here, please excuse my technological difficulties. I want to see if there's any comments. I mean, I made both these videos a long time ago, and I redid them for tonight because I really wanted people
The
to
media is
to
all
see.
a Twitter, literally and figuratively,
Uh-oh.
that Mitch McConnell issued some new threat. Here it is.
Just a minute.
Nobody serving in this chamber can even begin.
Oh, my goodness gracious. All right. I'm losing it. I got things going on, turning off. Let me take some comments. Bear with me. I'll learn eventually. I'm slow. So, yeah. Oh, T. Rogers says it's usually some selfish, privileged white guy doing this kind of thing because he can't have his way. It's sickening. And, you know, I know a lot of, absolutely, I know a lot of very, very selfish, privileged people do this kind of thing, but something's wrong with these people. I mean, that's like off the charts, just off the charts. So I agree with you 100%. But carried back, you have to have the permanent one. Exactly. T. Rogers, 100%. So unbalanced. There's Turtle McConnell. He really is just, he's full of shit. I don't know how else to put it. He's just completely full of shit. And he makes me sick. When I was a little girl, I honestly thought that politicians were supposed to be the best of the best, the smartest, the most personal integrity, the most upstanding, the best leaders, people who could do the right thing, even if no one was watching. Because you know what? There's always somebody watching. And that's them. They know. Just like we teach our kids. And unfortunately, I was wrong. I was fooled. It was sweet and adorable, but now I know the truth. That's just not how it works. And I find it to be disgusting. Carried back. Kennedy was a longtime Dem who couldn't get elected. Switched parties, began talking in a drawl, changed positions on guns, voters' rights, and took his Vanderbilt, UVA, and Oxygen degrees off his butt. Wow, that is so interesting. That is so interesting and so good to know. I don't know who that is. I only started looking into politics at all. This will sound criminal, but when 6 months before Trump came on, I did not take an interest in politics because I saw politics and social issues, don't laugh, well, you can laugh if you want, it's always good to have a little humor, as very separate. And I realize I'm very wrong now, but I was doing things at the local level and trying to do that rather than realize that laws are kind of where it's at. And I'm sure right now it's more like a balance, but because Trump's so overtly racist and the, as far as I'm concerned, the de facto modern day leader of the of white supremacy in the United States and the world, I had to take an interest. So I've had to learn a lot, and I'm still not so great, but I don't know. What do you guys think? I mean, I wanted to make a quick statement to make sure people understood something about my personal position on this type of thing. Personally, because of the extreme abuse that has been put upon Black, Brown, and Indigenous people, but mostly Black Americans and others, I do not feel the same as I do for white Americans with regards to gun ownership and whatnot. Obviously, if you're mentally ill, it does not matter what group you're in. It's not a good idea. You're more likely to use it on yourself or a family member than anybody. And that's just the truth. I think, that's been shown over and over and over again to be reality. But the bottom line is, I know if I call the police right now where I live, they will come and they will help me. And they might be, a total dick about it. They might be racist as you know what. But I know they will come and help me. They'll see where I live. They'll see the street I live on, and they'll decide that they better just behave. Okay? And that's just disgusting. They should not have a choice. It's called being a professional, and we have allowed this. I am legend. America promotes violence in many ways, for example, through TV, movies, music, etc. Violence adds to an evil economy because an evil economic system needs sales and weapons-filled courtrooms. Provides I get the feeling you're going to tell me more, which I appreciate. Yeah, the news alone helps to glamorize this. If nothing else, provides a reason for judges, lawyers, doctors, surgeons, jails, etc. For-profit prisons, for-profit for the wealthiest people, for-profit for healthcare, for-profit for mental health care. This nation's out of control. We have chosen greed and money, and not for everybody, for the wealthiest people over humans. And that is immoral. I don't know anyone who could say that's moral. It's out of control. Capitalism was meant to be an economic system with checks and balances. It is out of control. And it might be too late, actually, because once it hits the I Am Legend, thank you for your incredible insight. And I could not agree more. I'm just kind of piggybacking it. This nation's out of control. And we know a nation's out of control when 70 to 85% of all the people in the country or more, I've seen stats. I've never seen low stats. It's not close to 50. It's not close to 60. It's 70 and up. I've heard even 95 before. Depends who's doing the survey, but want common sense gun laws, and we don't have them. That's how I measure if a nation is of the people, by the people, for the people, in any order, for the people, of the people, by the people. Put it in any order you want. Ours is not. I don't know if it ever was, but in the olden days, I guess my fantasy was that people who became politicians had the people's best interest in mind, and they would vote with personal integrity and, intelligence and humanism. And I truly believe that to be a joke. There are some who still do. Thank goodness. Anybody supporting the Republican Party, sorry, no longer. It is not the Republican Party. It's the party of hate. It is dangerous for Black people to call white police. White police officers should not patrol Black neighborhoods. 100% get it, agree. And that is why my feelings about gun control are very different for people who are Black, who will immediately be thought of as the person who is the criminal, whether they call or not. We've seen it over and over again. I think it's pretty obvious. Shank, abso-freaking-lutely, 100%. It is dangerous, and that is why I think that if you're a Black person, I have no say. I have no place or any say in what you do with weapons, because you don't have protection. And the reason I say I, as a white person, do is because I do. I've seen it. It's happened. All right. I have privilege. Okay. When police come up to me, I don't know what it is about my white skin, but they think, wow, if I do something, I'm gonna get in lots of trouble. And they behave. And I'm thrilled they behave, personally, to me, but it's unconscionable that they don't do that for everybody. It's disgusting. And this nation has allowed it. And it makes me sick. We have watched it and done nothing. And that's inhumane. And when I say systemic racism, a crime against humanity, I'm including this. Not knowing that you can call for help and get it in a country that boasts liberty and justice for all, it's criminal. It's criminal. And that's why, despite the fact that Trump is no longer holding an office, I truly believe there's a real good chance that we're still in the twilight of our democracy, and that I'm not sure if we can save it. I know that might sound like the soothsayer of doom, but you don't have to read much history to kind of get where this stuff's going. The opportunity with the terrorism at the Capitol building on the 6th of January gave a fine opportunity for people to save face and say, you know what, this is where it stops with me, but no, we've doubled and tripled down, and we have the party of hate now. The Republican Party, as it may have been, and it may have always been this, but it's out of control now. They're not even trying to pretend they give a shit. What they're doing, my next video is coming out probably tomorrow, and it's about something nobody wants to talk about. I do. Of course I do. I always like to talk about this stuff. Sorry, I'm like a weirdo. It's about giving civil and human rights to people who are born transgender. They still don't have it in every state. I don't know if people are aware of this, but if you're born transgender, and a lot of people run from this, oh, transgender, ee! But guess what? If you do that, don't hate on me for this, but you know what? That's what people do when we talk about racism too. They run because they're like, oh yeah, right, racism. So yes, I'm going there because this is real talk. So, and I do not teach Black people anything. This is for white folks. But I can say that if you're a white person and you're about transgender people, you don't know anyone who's transgender. Clearly. You're in the same category as the people who go, when they say systemic racism is out of control in America. They're like, what? Huh? They don't know a single Black person, let alone a close personal friend that's Black. Because if they did, they would never question any of this. And that's the same thing with transgender people as well. There's less of them. Not to go off on a rant, but they fall into a category where they have the most suicides, the most physical abuse, the most murders, the most parental rejections, the most torment, the most homelessness. It's not even close. And guess what? It's all because our culture just can't fathom the idea that if we haven't experienced it, it must be fake. And that's exactly what they do with racism. That's what white folks do with racism. I don't see any racism. I don't see any crosses being burned. I don't know what you're talking about. So I'm just saying, do you mean by born transgender? Does that mean transgender mean they change their gender? Oh, okay. Transgender, when you're born transgender, people say, okay, people who are transgender you don't turn transgender like you're born transgender. It's like anything else. You are, but when you're prepubescent, you're not sexual. You're, like a little kid or whatever. So it doesn't come out like that. Oh, okay. No. Ask me anything. I absolutely. People who are born transgender are basically born with a certain, they're born with a gender identity that's given to them because of their parts, but their gender identity is not that. And transgender is just a very, very, very slim little part of the LGBTQ group, but most people don't know a ton about it. And I'm not an expert, but I know a lot about it because I've made it my business too, because I have friends who are transgender. And I have a lot of kids, not a lot, but some kids who I saw grow up with my kids who I always knew something was up. And they have transitioned and they're just doing great and they're happy. And I think, so ask anything you want. If I don't know, I will absolutely tell you, but it's like many mental illnesses, you're born with the susceptibility of having. It's like you're born transgender. It's not something that you catch. It's not something your parents did to you. Got it? Yeah. Ask anything. I am more than happy to, a transgender person is not born with the parts that match who they are. And there's been so much research done, and there's so much propaganda. And I did the video. I can't wait to put it out. I hope people take it. And, I don't want to be the soothsayer of doom, but a lot of people just like, ew, transgender, what's that? They don't get it, whatever. And I know you're not doing that, T. Oh my God, I'm not saying that at all. But it is real. I have not experienced it, but you know what? I can actually learn vicariously. And I know, T, you can, and I know, of course. But anyway, I went off on a little tangent there, but my next video is coming out because what's happening in many, many states, you can, and this is just crazy. They're doing what they used to do to Black people. They probably still do it to Black people, but at least it's illegal now. It is not illegal to say to somebody, I'm not hiring you because you're transgender. They have no recourse. Bye-bye. It is perfectly legal in a number of states to say, you can't live here. I will not rent to you. I will not give you a mortgage. I will not this, that, and the other. Perfectly legal. The difference is that white transgender persons will not face racism. Absolutely. And huge difference is that if you are transgender, you can live your life in hiding. And Black people cannot. And there's 1,000 other differences too. As a group, they have not been, I mean, give me a break. There's no comparison. There's no comparison to what's been done with systemic racism. It is its own horrific. There's no comparison. But what there is, the ignorance is a commonality among, it's an ignorance with gay people. It's an ignorance with disabled people. It's the same ignorance with mentally ill people. It crosses all lines. And that's what I was saying. There is, and I knew that's an important point to bring up, Shank. Absolutely not. There's no, you can hide your entire life. Not that I think that's good. If you are Black, you cannot hide it. You cannot fit in and pretend. But, and I am not ever saying that there is a congruency there. But what is congruent is the fact that with all these various, people who have what we call, what we call nowadays in historically marginalized groups of all sorts, there's one thing that they all have in common with the majority group who is not experiencing what they are, is that the people who are the most hateful are the ones who don't know a single solitary close friend who fits into that category. And that speaks volumes. What you don't know, apparently you look at you vilify, and when you vilify, it's easy to abuse. It's what we do as humans. We see it all the time. So that's what I was trying to say. And I hope that I've made it clear. I'll get better at explaining this. But the people who are the most rotten, horrifically inhumane to my Black friends are the people who do not have a single friend, let alone a good friend who's not just like them. The people I know who are the most horrific to Muslim Americans and to Jewish people and to anybody they decide, they don't know a single Muslim American in their life, not one, let alone somebody who's a close friend. And with transgender people, same damn thing. Either way, it shouldn't matter. We are all the human race and we should be treated with fairness, decency. Absolutely. Absolutely. T. Rogers, exactly. They're born with the parts that aren't who they are. And nobody really understands why, but it's been something that's occurred throughout history, anecdotally, and tons of evidence over the entire history of humankind. It's not new. What is new in this day and age is nations like America, who, once colonization happened, the idea of more than two genders became unthinkable in most places. There used to be, well, you'll just see the video. There used to be many cultures that embraced and accepted more than two genders. For some reason, go figure, colonization put an end to that. There's probably been more time throughout history where there's been more than two genders than not. But we live here and now, and we live in our very, kind of closed environment and culture. And most people, you can't study everything, and most people don't know. So it's kind of an interesting thing. Carried back. I was briefly hopeful that that January 6th would be a turning point when GOPers would finally stop before driving off the cliff, but no, a few hopeful words, but then they hit the gas and went full Thelma and Louise. So you know exactly what I'm saying. I was thinking about the fragility of white folks, and I took that and I kind of combined it with the idea that usually if there's a catastrophic event, and you can see an out that's reasonable, it can be taken. And I was hoping that the January 6th wanting to assassinate and stop the electoral process in the United States of America by attacking the building that the people and the senators and the Congress people were voting in, and damn, coming in with weapons. Need I go on? I think not. Would be a good out, a good way to say, same here. Yeah, it's like a good time to say, okay, I can kind of, like nobody in their right mind would be okay with this, but not so much. So we have the party of hate now, officially, and it's really scary. We have the party of lies, fabrication, propaganda, Russia, China. Well, I can't say North Korea because I know way too much about North Korea. They got nothing on us with propaganda. America, we're good. And I know there was a time in my life where I thought, oh, there's no propaganda in America. I was very little, okay? Okay, it was last year, fine. Just kidding. But I'm just saying, let me see here. Ramses, you must watch my video. It'll be coming out probably tomorrow. And I will answer all of your questions. Transgender people have been around forever. And there's been societies that they've been embraced in, and not so much ours. Unfortunately, most people who don't understand it don't know a single person who was born transgender, so how would they know? And here's the problem I have with that. Not to go off on you, Ramses. I don't want to go off on you. But the bottom line is, all opinions aren't created equal. For example, when I was working with some of the white folks who didn't know a single solitary Black person in their entire life, let alone a close friend, they had some serious ideas that were really messed up. And then they met someone. They got educated. They became close friends over years. And now they're a different person. Not all opinions are created equal. There's a lot of knowledge to have in this world. I'm skipping people. I'm so sorry. Dave, I think it's an abomination that a certain political party wants to make voting harder. Our right-wing Supreme Court has been willing participants in it. Yeah. Oh my goodness. What a horrible, horrible thing. I couldn't agree more. I agree 100%. It's just terrible. I've looked at where the United States compares to other countries on human rights. We are ranked 25, right? Right. I read that as well. I'm sure if Alabama were a country, they'd be ranked 75th in human rights. Well, I mean, West Virginia alone has the lowest, basically lifespan, I guess you could call it, of any state in the nation. And it's markedly lower than the highest. So we got issues. How do you feel about transgender men using women's restrooms? I have a very, very strong feeling on transgender men using women's restrooms. Transgender men don't use women's restrooms. Just to let you know that transgender women use women's restrooms. Is that what you meant? Yeah, no, of course not. T, that's totally fine. That's very normal. And I just happen to, by chance. But yeah, transgender men use men's restrooms. Transgender women use women's restrooms. So you meant the opposite, right? I'm guessing. Okay, I just want to explain one thing. There has been the murder rate for transgender people in general is off the charts. It's extremely dangerous to be a transgender person, okay? If you are a transgender and Black, it's even more dangerous. The stats are off the charts for being murdered, taken advantage of. I know for me, right. Here's the thing on the restroom. I have not just made an opinion on it. I've studied it over years and years and years. And there is, well, you got to watch my video. You got to watch my video. I have no stake in, believing one way or the other. Like, this is something I've studied. I don't have like a personal close friend that like is counting on me to, this is just humanistic. And I explain the entire history in the video. I explain about the whole women in sports and whatnot. And I hope you guys like it. I was supposed to put it out weeks ago, but I had to do so much research on it. Here's the thing. It's extremely dangerous for a transgender person to go into the bathroom. It's dangerous for them, not for anybody else, for them. That's where many murders occur. That's where rape occurs. That's where assault occurs. That's where death occurs, hidden in a bathroom. And that is a really, really awful thing. It's a terrible thing, but people don't realize it. People do not realize that that is something that has been historically just horrendous. If we force people who are born transgender to go into the bathroom of what they were assigned at birth, okay, that is putting them in harm's way to the point where it's off the charts. For some reason, people, if they go into the one that you think they were born to be in, or whatever, you personally, if you don't know anybody and don't get it, that's extremely dangerous for them. There have been transgender people in your bathroom before, I promise, and you didn't know. Transgender women, transgender men. Most people who transition, you can't tell. You really can't tell. Unless you did creepy things to them, which is just plain creepy. In college, I had a bathroom that was co-ed. Shank, they're trying to make it a law for transgender men to use women's restrooms. They're trying to force people who are men, transgender men, they're men, to use the bathroom that they were assigned at birth. And that is extremely dangerous for them, physically and mentally. It's humiliating. It's embarrassing. Would you like to go use, I'm a woman, okay? I'm just saying. I could, no shit's given if I use the men's room, but some people do care. Okay, like I don't personally care, like whatever. But some people actually are humiliated. How would you feel if you're one of those people that you're a woman and you don't want to use the men's room, or you're a man and no, you don't want to have to go to the women's room? Well, that's how they feel too. It's humiliating and embarrassing, and it's taking away who they are as a human being. Now, you're talking about a completely different thing, Shank. I don't get into what people like, what they don't. That's like personal, has nothing to do with this. All right. Absolutely nothing. If you're homophobic, clearly that's going to be something on your mind, but I'm not saying you, but you, proverbial you. It's a freaking bathroom. I had a co-ed bathroom in college. It was actually a lot of my best friends would come in and like, I would do my face stuff and my teeth, and we would totally talk for like an hour. And it was just like so much fun. It was so nice to be able to have my best friends coming in. It didn't matter. I was there for 2 years. It was a non-issue. No one gave a shit. It's just kind of an uptight thing. I don't know if it's just us in America, but anyway, how about they make unisex bathrooms so that every gender can use it all the time? Why even have separate bathrooms in the first place? Amen. Open Bob, I agree. It's just an uptight thing. And a lot of people in Europe find our stance to be abhorrent. We are not progressive here. We are not in the middle. We're conservative in America, if you can believe that. Just make unisex bathrooms. Everyone gets their own private. Exactly. Why not? Let me back up because I know I skipped people and I did not mean to do so. Dave, I'm holding my breath. Next time I have to go home to my parents. My mom voted Trump. We got into a huge fight last time I was home. I will need some tranquilizers. It's really sad. Very, very hard. I'm so sorry, Dave. That's really tough. That's a toughie. I know for me, this is MC. I know for me, I could care less about the restroom thing as long as I have my privacy right. And there are, I don't think there is maybe one single case in the history of the United States that's legit where a transgender person went into a bathroom to sneak in. I don't think there's a single. It just doesn't happen, people. It just doesn't happen. If you knew somebody who was transgender, then you get it. I have a close friend who's transgender, and then there's a little. Well, he was born female, but he is a transgender man now, and I knew her as a little girl from 6 years old to now. He's like 21. One of the nicest people you will ever know, friends with their parents, wonderful parents. They're actually from England. They live here. They've lived here most of their life. When you meet somebody and become close friends with somebody who's transgender, you will get it. It's not hard, especially people who are here tonight. I know you'll get it. It is heartbreaking to be born and forced to be the gender that you're not. Kids very young, any parent whose child was born transgender starts noticing, and it's not, they want to be the other thing. They have to be. It's not about wanting. It's not about choice. It's who they are. And sadly, it's who we are in our society to hold such disdain and hatred towards people. It's not an experiment. It's not a thing to do. It's real. And it's real. I don't know what to say. It is. Let me just see here. I know I'm skipping people. I'm going to wrap it up. I know I'm so pleased to have so many people here. Let me see. How's your video called about women in sports? I want to watch it. Yeah, we talk about women's sports. I have some Yale studies that I quote. I have, well, I can tell you right now, if you just to, throw something out at you. The Olympics since 2004, around 17 years, the Olympic Games have allowed and embraced transgender athletes, but they don't allow that. It's fine. There's never been a single one who's qualified, not one. So the whole sports thing is a total crock of shit. Okay. And I mean that from the heart. It is another bullshitting way for people to make sure people who are born transgender can get booted out of housing. They can be told they don't get a job. They can be not given medical care. They can be not given loans. All the things that we fought for Black, brown, and indigenous people, all the things that we fought for immigrants who came in, all the things that we fought for disabled people, for people with mental illness, are still happening to transgender people. And it's abhorrent and it's disgusting in 2021. And yes, I am passionate about this because, give me a break. Give me a break. These people, we cause them to kill themselves. They'd rather die than deal with the hatred. I know, T, I knew you'd get this. I knew you would. It is, I've seen it. I've seen the heartbreak. I've seen the parents wishing to God they could do something for their beloved child. The hatred in America it's unbelievable. And it's not just for Black folks and brown folks. And yes, systemic racism is a completely different thing. My God, we had centuries of slavery. It's not the same thing. It's not. But the ignorant component, ignorance is ignorance, all right? People who think that people who are mentally ill are murderers, people who are developmentally disabled, more people have come to me and said, are they going to hurt me? No, they're developmentally disabled. They're not axe murderers for the love of God. So it's people, there's so many things people don't know because we don't know. We just think the worst and everything. And if we haven't experienced it, it's scary. But we got to be brave and we got to do this because we're killing people. Our culture kills. And it's we're on this planet such a short amount of time. My God, I'm blabbing and blabbing. Saying a straight man could dress as a woman to rape women in restrooms never happened once. Hasn't happened. Of course they could. And that's a really bad thing, but there's been 0 cases of it. I've looked and looked and looked. People have looked. How about a straight man could go in there not dressed up and do that? Why dress up? The door's open. It's not locked. So, a lot of these things are basically, and I'm not saying they're yours, but you won't come up with something I haven't heard before because there's only a few things. It's just like with classic cliche denials of racism. There are only a few, anti-trans things and hate towards transgender people. You don't come up with many, not you, but people in general. They don't come up with many. But they're just as adamant about it. Those people are this, those people are that. Well, they don't know a single person, let alone a close friend who's not. So it's shut the fuck up. Not you personally, but I'm just saying, I like to keep things real. Not all opinions should be counted as equal. Okay. I'm not an expert in transgender people. I know very medium. I'm right in the middle of the road. I do not know as much as I should. I am not an expert. I don't have a PhD in it, but I've read a ton of articles. I do have close friends who were born transgender. And I've also watched a little girl grow up who is transgender, and she's a transgender male. And it is real. It is not something they do to try to do anything. They are just trying to survive life with what they've been given. So the ignorant part just is so classic because in every time, if you don't know it, then it must be this, it must be that. I have met more people who think mentally ill people are non-functional, are, all axe murderers, are, anyway, I'm blabbing. You have to get to know people on a human level before you judge. Right. And sure, there are people who are transgender who are jackasses. I've seen it, but there are people in every category who are jackasses. So it's people in Iceland. In Iceland, people in swimming pools have joined wardrobes and they are naked there and no one bats an eye. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's we are so freaking uptight in this country. It's our culture and that's fine. But when it turns to hatred, which turns to discrimination, which turns to self-hatred and people kill themselves. These are our children. These are my children. These are your children. These are our children. So, and all you need to do is get to know somebody. That's all you need to do. If you have all these horrible, horrible things about Black people, how about get to know somebody? They won't. They never do because they're afraid. They're afraid of the truth. that they'll be like, oh my gosh, this person's actually a human, maybe even a really nice human, maybe a really, really good human, maybe an amazing human. Nobody wants to be wrong, so they don't. So we continue when we perpetuate all this hate. That is why I'm extremely protective of my ADS Black son. Yes. It's right. People do not get it. What if your child's developmentally disabled and they don't look like it? Talk about being bullied. What are you, stupid, or, whatever. I mean, the silent, the non-obvious disabilities like severe mental illness, developmental delays that you can't tell, people with many, I mean, we got to care, and we got to never say never. Never say never, because you don't know. But I know I skipped somebody. I apologize. And Shank, I wasn't trying to come down on you. It just, that's a classic cliche one that doesn't happen. Did I skip anybody? Let me see. Open Bob, women athletes need to be paid the same as men athletes. Today is equal pay day, I believe. I think so too. I think we got a long ways to go, but I honestly believe that's why he's homeschooled now. I did not know that. God, we had to talk off camera sometime. I didn't know that. That's, yeah, because I homeschooled my first two kids when they were really, really little, because I feel like really, really responsible for, well, I'm sure you do, as a teacher, like, and a mom, I didn't want to be like, it's all they're doing. It's like, I take responsibility for my child's education, probably more than I should, but so that's why I homeschooled them when they were little, because they needed it. That's cool. People can't get a word in edgewise with me on here dominating the comment. No, I love it. It's like, I love it. Don't stop. I'm going to wrap it up for tonight. I just wanted to, T, I adore you. You are amazing. You are so open. You are so willing to learn, and it's like, and willing to teach, and willing to share your own experience. I love it. It's wonderful. It is wonderful. I know. I do too. T, I do too. God, we definitely need to chat on the phone. Yeah. You're wonderful. I'm like you, like, I want to know, I want to explore things, and I want to know what things are. I can learn vicariously, and I can tell you can too. And that's like, I don't need to have experienced everything for it to be real. I don't know. I feel blessed in that way. It's kind of a curse, actually, but I'm just kidding. We'll talk. Anyway, vicarious learning has always been something that I've been able to do. Got a lot of other things I can't do, like technology, but I feel people, and I feel my fellow humans. So I'm going to say goodnight. If you would like to come to the book club, it's going great. I am very excited about it. It's the first time I've done a book club before. And T is one of the panelists, and my friend Roy, my friend Tim, and we're getting it together. We're on chapter 3, but I do a summary of it, a little short summary. Hopefully it'll be shorter and shorter. And you don't have to read the book unless you so desire, because I will do a summary of it. This is what the book club is. It's every Sunday at 9 Eastern on my channel. And I do this Wednesday show, which will be kind of morphing into a more, how shall we say, loose, maybe not as, thank you so much, Carried Back. You're wonderful. Not as rigid and planned out, but more hearing what you have to say about news and whatnot. And I do free streaming on Sunday. Don't leave me hanging on Sunday. From 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern, I hang out on free stream. And actually, if you're not there, I'll just do work because I have so much work to do. But if you are there, I'm there because I want to get to know you on a personal level. Call me. If no one's around, I'll stay on the phone the whole time with you. And if you don't want me to put it on, I just will make it private or, get rid of it if it's personal or whatever. But I want to get to know the people who care about the things I care about, not just have me like blah, 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 blab all the time and stuff. So thank you so much. And if you want to be on the show or host, please jump right in. At the very top of this is how you can get a hold of me. And the last thing I'll say, I swear, if you feel like I do that it is way past time for white America to learn our real racial history and for us to learn to find our voices and stand up for our fellow humans, not for more than everyone else has, but for some equity. Because after all, living a lie is not fun. And that's what white folks do in America today. We live a lie and it sucks. And it sucks more for everyone else probably, but we suck because of it. Just saying. It's not cool. It's not good. It hurts us too, but we don't get it. So find your voice and teach other white people how to act human. And I will say on that note, good night. And I loved having everyone here tonight. Thank you so much. And hopefully I will see you maybe at the free stream on Sunday. If it's really nice weather, I probably won't see anybody, which I don't mind at all because of course everyone's going to be outside having fun. Maybe keep your distance. And I am actually getting my first coronavirus shot tomorrow. I am thrilled to do it. I will tell you how it goes, right? We got to get this thing done and over with. So take care, everybody. Don't be a stranger. Write me, private message me if you want. All right. Good night, everybody. Sweet dreams.